And waiting for the video to come in. Bear with me just a second. Hold on. Just making sure. I'm still a little bit new to streaming directly to YouTube. Usually I do it to Twitch. But it looks like we're good. Guys, welcome to Comics Daily Weekly, episode number 16. Today I'll be talking about some of the Marvel comics that were released in November of 1967. Just real quick, if you don't know, Comics Daily Weekly is a weekly stream, podcast, chat kind of thing that I do usually every Monday night. I read one comic every day I started with Fantastic Four #1 and have continued through all the various titles, not all of them, but some of the various titles as they were released back in the 60s. So basically every week I cover 1 month's worth of comics. Last week we talked about comics from October 1967. Next week we'll talk about comics from December 1967, but this week we're talking about comics from November 1967. Real quick, let me tell you which ones we're going to be doing. This week tonight we're going to be talking about Amazing Spider-Man number 54, Tales of Suspense number 95, Daredevil number 34, Avengers number 46, Strange Tales number 162, Fantastic Four number 68, and this is a special longer week because there was 2 annuals that came out in November 1967 as well. That being Amazing Spider-Man Annual number 4, which is actually going to be the last one we talk about, and then also Fantastic Four Annual number 5. So we're going to bookend this show with Amazing Spider-Man, which is my favorite. Spider-Man's my favorite character of all time, and Amazing Spider-Man is hands down the best of all these books that were released at the time, at least that we're reading. So those are always fun. So anyway, let's jump right into it because I am trying something. I am trying a little bit different, tackling this a little bit differently, where instead of going page by page, I just talk about the issue as a whole. I'm trying very hard to keep these videos to an hour at maximum, regardless of how many issues we have to talk about. I love comic books quite a bit, though, and I can get kind of rambly. I've already spent almost 3 minutes talking about just how much I love talking about comics. So we're going to get right into it as soon as I get some water. All right. So, Amazing Spider-Man number 54. This is the second part of, I think it's maybe a 4-part story. We're not to the end yet, but it's the second part of a really classic story. It's not one of the most classic stories that everybody thinks about, but this is a classic. Dr. Octopus moves in with Aunt May. So last issue, we talked about how Aunt May and Anna Watson decided to rent out their spare bedroom in their house to make a little bit more money. Doc Ock, having just tried to steal a military weapon, I can't remember if it has a name, the Nullifier. They call it the Nullifier in the next issue. This Nullifier weapon, Spider-Man stops him, but Doc Ock needs to lay low for a little bit, so he actually sees that there's a room available in Aunt May's house. He doesn't know that, obviously, Aunt May, Peter Parker and all that. He just sees a room available with, 2 unsuspecting elderly women. So he rents that room. And that was at the tail end of last issue, was Doc Ock talking to Aunt May about the room she has available. So this issue, he actually moves in, and it's quite funny. So as you can imagine, Peter is none too happy when he learns about this. Now, he does spend the first little bit of the issue looking for Doc Ock. Can't find him, obviously. This issue does have a couple of nice moments in it as well. We do get we get a little bit more about... there's a little bit of friction between Harry and Peter. We don't really know why. It looks like, we haven't really heard directly from Harry's point of view on this, but basically he's getting tired of Peter being super secretive. Always in this scene here, Peter hears Harry coming and he has to hurry up and lock his door real quick, and I guess Harry hears it and he gets all bent out of shape, and Harry's upset that Peter's never around, although that's kind of a weird thing for a roommate to get upset about. I had roommate, when I think about back to roommates in college, they didn't care if I wasn't there or not, So that's a little strange. But this is a small subplot that has been going on for the last couple of issues. Harry sort of being a little bit of a stick in the mud, having a little bit of an issue with Peter being gone all the time and being super secretive and keeping everything locked up. Harry feels like Peter doesn't trust him. And on the flip side of that coin, Peter's just trying to keep his identity secret. So we get a little bit of that here. Also, probably my favorite thing in this issue is right here. Peter's first meeting with Joe Robbie Robertson. I love Joe Robertson. He's one of the greatest characters in all supporting cast of all of comics. This is not his first appearance. He first showed up, I think, a couple issues ago. But this is the first time that he and Peter met. And this is special because Joe Robertson is he's one of the central figures in all of Spider-Man lore. He is he's the rational voice to Jonah's, blubbering mouth, I guess, where Jonah is irrational, Robbie is rational. So super cool that we get the first meeting of them here. Lots more to come from Joe Robertson over the coming decades. But we don't get too much of that for too long. We do get a little bit more Mary Jane and Gwen. I'll talk about it a little bit more next week, but I do love the sort of the friendly rivalry they have. It would have been really easy for Marvel to go the route of, especially in the 60s, it would have been really easy for them to go the route of, the two female characters both want Peter, thus they hate each other. But it's not really like that. They have this really nice, friendly rivalry. They just sort of take friendly jabs at each other, but it's nothing hateful or spiteful or anything like that. But it's fun because they do a great job because they really could have carried out this whole Doc Ock living with Aunt May thing. And the whole Doc Ock Aunt May thing does keep popping up over the next few years, as we'll see over the next several months. But it's nice that Peter finds out pretty quickly that Doc Ock is staying in Aunt May's spare room. Peter's not too happy about it, but he has to play it down. He can't say why he's not happy. He points out that Doc Ock's wanted by the police. Aunt May questioned him about that earlier. He says, no, I'm not. And she says, okay, cool. I'm glad we cleared that up. So that's a nice little sequence there. But yeah, Peter is none too happy about this. He throws on his Spider-Man garb, and the rest is just them fighting at Aunt May's house to much great destruction. Peter has to first fend off some goons, and then he takes on Doc Ock himself. And as you can see, they get a giant hole in the wall, which stresses out Peter because how are they going to pay for it? Also, the big thing about this and what will set the tone for next issue is Aunt May comes in, seeing the two of them fight, and she faints. She passes out, but she faints because of Spider-Man, not because of Doc Ock. She's super scared of Spider-Man. She's, I've talked about it before, the Daily Bugle, all this like Fox News stuff of the last few years have really helped me understand how people could believe all the garbage that the Daily Bugle is spewing about Spider-Man when he clearly isn't a bad guy. And Aunt May is one of those, if Aunt May were around today, she'd be, hanging on Fox News' every word, So because of everything she reads in Daily Bugle, she's super scared of Spider-Man. She sees him and passes out. Doc Ock gets away, and Peter is just stark raving mad. And I pointed that out because the next issue, which I read yesterday on Sunday the 29th and posted about it yesterday on Twitter on either of these accounts. I should have mentioned, by the way, I read all of these comics one a day, every day on both of these accounts. So if you want to keep up with me as I'm reading these, follow me on either of these, Twitter and Instagram, and you'll see it. So yeah, Peter is really, really mad at the end of this, because Aunt May, once again, frail Aunt May, her life is at stake, because the shock is any kind of shock could kill her. The shock of the wind changing could kill her because she's so frail. Yeah, so Peter is none too happy about that. So more to come on that next issue, but Peter is in a bad mood. All right, next up is Tales of Suspense number 95. This is a double feature between Iron Man and Captain America. It has been for the last 30 some odd issues. We only have, after this one, we have 4 more issues before this splits. Iron Man getting his own title, restarting with Iron Man number 1. Captain America continuing this title, and it becomes Captain America number 100 and goes from there. So this one features the Grey Gargoyle, a classic villain who, this is not his first appearance. His first appearance was in an issue of Thor, but I'm not reading Thor, so this is my first reading. This is my first encounter with the Grey Gargoyle in my reading of these books. So as is typical, the Grey Gargoyle. Oh well, let's back up. First of all, we talked about it probably 3 or 4 weeks ago. Now over in Strange Tales, after Hydra was disposed of, the main cast of that book. So Fury, Laura Brown, Dum Dum Dugan, well, kind of. Jasper Sitwell here, this blonde guy, and Gabe Jones, they all kind of went their separate ways, kind of like friends graduating in high school, and then they all go off and do their own thing. Well, we haven't seen Jasper Sitwell in the last 3 weeks, 3 or 4 weeks, and here he is. He has been assigned. This is his next assignment. Nick Fury has assigned him to basically hang out with Tony Stark at Stark Industries, because Stark Industries gets attacked a lot, and Iron Man supposedly isn't there all the time, although he is, because it's Tony Stark. So Jasper Sitwell is now Tony Stark's bodyguard, I guess you could say. Meanwhile, the Grey Gargoyle, who I don't know much about his origin. I know the character and I know his abilities and stuff. I don't know why he can fly. This is so weird. Why can a guy who turns himself to stone fly? I don't know. It doesn't make any sense. Paul Duvall, I guess is his real name. He came up, he found a chemical which if he poured it onto himself, it would turn him to stone and gives him the ability to turn anything he touches into stone, kind of a King Midas kind of thing, or a Medusa kind of thing. If you look at Medusa, you turn to stone. Grey Gargoyle touches you, you turn to stone. Now, you know, the MacGuffin of that is it only lasts for an hour, so you know how bad can it really be? But Grey Gargoyle has it out for Thor. He's going to break in as most villains that Iron Man fights do. He's going to break into Stark Industries to steal a weapon that's going to help him defeat Thor. It's called the Cobalt weapon, is what he calls it. And the rest of this issue is him trying to break in and steal this weapon. And Iron Man has to take him down. Now, the trick here is, how do you stop a guy who you cannot touch? Because if you do, he will turn you to stone. Well, that's exactly what happened. We've got some nice action here. Gene Colan really doing a good job. Been doing a good job with Iron Man. But that's exactly what happens. Grey Gargoyle actually manages to get his hands on Iron Man, turns him to stone, and throws him off the roof. And I admit, I was compelled by this ending. I was thinking, obviously, Iron Man lives, but how does he get out of this? Because he is turned to stone. So I read the next issue today, on November 30th, Monday. And I posted it to Twitter and Instagram. And a little cheesy the way he gets out of it, but I'm not going to tell you. We'll save that for next week. But I was compelled by this cliffhanger. I was like, wow. Because if Stone Iron Man hits the ground, he's going to shatter. So we'll see how he gets out of it next issue. The Captain America story in this is pretty interesting as well. He is hot on the heels of a fugitive gangster named Gunnar Gates. But that's not really what this story is about. This story is about Cap finally making the move on Agent 13, whose name he still doesn't know. And I think she even mentions it again. Every time they're together, she mentions to Steve Rogers, oh yeah, by the way, I've never told you my name. she could just tell him her name. But again, I guess she's hesitant because she is a little bit hesitant to reveal that she is Peggy Carter's niece in the comics, granddaughter in the movies. So I guess maybe that's why she's a little bit hesitant to do that. So she still hasn't told him his name, but they go out for a date, and man, Steve Rogers moves fast. I wonder what people would say if they knew I'm here with a girl who means so much to me, and yet I don't even know her real name. How does a fella propose to someone he only knows as Agent 13? Sorry about that. To which Sharon, Agent 13 says, "Propose? Dude, this is a date. This is our first date. You don't even know my name." Like, he's moving super fast. And this is a trend. This is one of the reasons why I wanted to read books like these comics like this, 1 month's worth of books every week, is that I don't know, I just don't understand the culture in the 60s, I guess, because there have been so many times in these books. Happy Hogan with Pepper Potts, Foggy Nelson with Karen Page, and then now Steve with Agent 13, and it's probably happened in some of the other books I haven't read either. But they go on one date, or maybe they don't even go on a date yet, and the guy already is thinking about how to propose to the girl. Even in Daredevil, Matt Murdock himself said, "I don't know how to propose to Karen. I don't know how I'm going to do it." And also, do I propose as Matt Murdock or Mike Murdock, which we're not going to talk about that until we have to. But so she is, but she's less taken aback by the fact that he wants to propose so suddenly as she is with, she just can't because of her duty to S.H.I.E.L.D., right? She says that people like us, she knows he's Captain America. I think everybody does, or everybody will by next issue. She says people like us can't get married because we have a higher calling, we have a higher duty that we have to do. So Cap gets all just flustered, and he's like, "Oh, she's right. It was such devotion to duty that caused the death of Bucky Barnes, and it's her devotion to duty that's keeping the two of us apart. I've sacrificed everything in the name of duty, but I'll do it no longer. The next battle I fight as Captain America will be my last." So now it's Cap's turn to call it quits. Peter Parker's done it already. Tony Stark has done it already. I don't think Matt Murdock has done it yet, but we'll get there, I'm sure. So now Captain America is sick of not being able to have a normal life because he's Captain America. So he said he's gonna quit. He's gonna retire. So he takes down Gunny the gangster, and he says the time has come for Captain America to finally die so that Steve Rogers can begin to live. And this is big news. Captain America retires. The public is flabbergasted by this. They can't believe what they're hearing. And Nick Fury talks to Agent 13 about it. Agent 13 isn't as ready to give up her duty as Captain America is. She's like, "Hey, she talks to Fury, and Fury says, yeah, one day I won't need you anymore, and you can go be with Steve Rogers. But today is not that day, right?" So, so here's Cap just decides to be done with being Captain America, or Steve Rogers decides to quit being decides to quit being Captain America and goes out and buys a new suit. And so more on that next issue. This story continues into next issue. And then the issue after that is going to be the beginning of a 4-part story that ends in Captain America number 100, which is the continuation of this series. So we'll get to that, I think, the first week of January. But yeah, so as of right now, Steve Rogers has decided to be Captain America no more. Will he come back? Will he wield the shield again? Only time will tell. So Daredevil number 34, this one is not super great, but it's not as bad, I guess. So last issue, Daredevil was captured by the Beetle and his henchmen. The Beetle, if you remember, the Beetle was robbing a train to steal some jewels. It was a train to the Montreal Expo 67. And Matt Murdock decided to put on his Mike Murdock disguise and tell Karen and Foggy, hey, let's go on a train ride and take a vacation. And let's just happen to go on this train that the Beetle is going to rob so that I can stop him. Not in so many words, but that's what happened. At the end of last issue, Daredevil tracked the Beetle down to this small town, fought some of the people there, and then it turns out they're working for the Beetle. So this is more just Daredevil and Daredevil fighting the Beetle and his goons. The big catch to this story is that the Beetle wants to make, I guess you could say, humiliate Daredevil or make an example of him. So he actually wants to take Daredevil to the expo and reveal Daredevil's identity. So they carry him in, they're rushing him in, and they even make signs, the greatest exhibit of all, see Daredevil unmasked by the Beetle. And of course Karen and Foggy see this and they can't let that happen. Now, unbeknownst to the Beetle is Daredevil has been playing possum this whole time. So he's well aware of where he is and what's going on, and he knows exactly how to get out and when he's going to do it. And right here, he pulls his best Jean-Claude Van Damme and, split kicks these two guys, the Beetle and this other dude. And the rest of it is just this big fight at this expo. Beetle does get the upper hand on Daredevil for just a minute before Foggy comes in and helps out. And then from there, it's all Daredevil taking down the Beetle. And that's it. The Canadian Mounties come and pick him up, puts on his ridiculous Mike Murdock glasses, and that's it. So, it's an okay story, I guess. But the fact that Mike Murdock was there kind of ruined it at the end, but it's fine. I'm more anxious to get to the Mike Murdock must die storyline, but I think that's still a few weeks out. So this is just, we ran through that one real quick, but it's just Daredevil versus Beetle in Canada. That's pretty much it. Daredevil wins in the end. All right, so this issue of Avengers number 46, I didn't love this one either. So this one not introduces, this is not the first appearance of the classic villain, the Whirlwind. This isn't his first appearance, but this is the first time that I've read him in the books that I've been reading. And this one basically is just Goliath and Wasp fighting a bunch of ants, is really what it is. The rest of the team decides to go out and do something. Cap and Quicksilver decide to go to a baseball game. Hawkeye, Hercules, Black Widow, Scarlet Witch decide to go shopping, I think. I can't quite remember where they go. The most notable thing here is this. Hercules shaves. He looks pretty good, right? So, yeah, that's a big deal, I guess. That's a thing that happened. So we're going to see a clean-shaven Hercules for the next little while as a guy who cannot grow a beard and is envious of everybody who can. It pained me to see him shave that glorious, glorious beard. I think he looks better with it. So while the rest of them are out, Whirlwind has actually sort of infiltrated Avengers Mansion by posing as Jan's limo driver or chauffeur, I guess. Turns out he's actually the Whirlwind, and he's able to. We get a little bit of his origin here. I guess he's a mutant, which I didn't know. Like, he was born with these powers to spin around like a human top, and I guess he was actually called the Human Top for a while. I didn't know that. I probably should have, I guess. It's part of Marvel lore and Avengers history, but I didn't know. So that was pretty interesting, I guess. Sure, he's a mutant. Quicksilver does even mention that at the end. So okay. So I guess it's true. So everybody else is gone, and Whirlwind breaks in or busts through the wall in Avengers Mansion, and he wants to fight Goliath because he has a beef with Goliath. I guess that's where his stories were before, was over in Tales to Astonish with Ant-Man and the Wasp. So what happens here is right here is that Whirlwind is actually able to he manages to shrink Goliath and the Wasp, but because they don't shrink naturally on their own, like under their own power to do that, like under their own shrinking power, Goliath isn't able to be this big but still keep his regular size strength, and Wasp isn't able to grow her wings because they were shrunk by an outside factor, so they didn't shrink normally, so they don't get to keep those abilities. The reason I bring that up is because they spend the vast majority of the rest of the issue fighting these pink ants. I don't know why they're pink, but because Goliath doesn't have his human size, normal size strength, these ants are actually posing quite a problem to him. Like, they have to fight these guys. Meanwhile, Cap and Quicksilver do come back and they engage in fisticuffs with Whirlwind, while Goliath and Wasp still fight the pink ants. Whirlwind gets away at the end, but the big thing with this issue is that Goliath is able to rig up this little headset that allows him to speak to the ants, kind of like he used to be able to do when he was Ant-Man, like back in his Ant-Man days. And he decides to adopt that moniker again of Ant-Man, especially because the Avengers already have a strong guy in Hercules. He says that, well, they don't need another strong guy who isn't as strong, so I can do more good as a little dude talking to ants, getting ants to help us. Now, one thing that's notable here is that Whirlwind actually managed to plant a bomb in Avengers Mansion. After the fight, Quicksilver grabs the bomb, runs out, throws it in the water, and they're all saved. What's interesting, though, is these two panels right here. Let me try to zoom in like this so that we can get them both. I think this will work. Yeah, this is good enough. So Quicksilver saves everybody, but because he's a mutant, everybody's like, hey, I don't trust that silver-haired creep or any mutant. Neither do I. The rest of the Avengers are all human, but Quicksilver's a mutant. Like that nutty sister of his. I don't trust either of them. And Quicksilver says, so even while I saved the Homo sapiens' lives, their hearts are still full of mistrust and fear. It is always as I have thought, yet not dared to admit. No mutant will ever be accepted by the accursed humans. The time draws near when I will bear their insults and suspicions no longer, but will lash back. So I just thought that was pretty... I don't know where that's going to go. Obviously, Quicksilver doesn't stay with the Avengers forever. He's actually stayed with the team longer than I thought he would. But I think that's the start of the seed, planting the seed for Quicksilver to, leave the Avengers and maybe kind of become the jerk that he's known for being now, because he hasn't actually been all that much of a jerk in the pages of Avengers. Maybe in the first 4 issues of him being in the Avengers, so 16 to 20 maybe or something, because for a while he thought he should be the leader. But he's actually been a pretty decent guy throughout most of his run of Avengers so far. But if you read Quicksilver in the 80s, 90s, and on, Quicksilver's a dick. I don't like Quicksilver. He reminds me of Namor. He's so arrogant and he's just mean and grumpy all the time. So I wonder if this is maybe what starts that trend. So we'll keep an eye on that. But that's all that there was for that little plot point with Quicksilver. And then the rest of it is right here. Let's see where... I think it's this right here. Let's see. The Avengers came close with a few adjustments. This Cyberno helmet will give me increased mastery of the insect world. Well, this isn't it, but he does talk about how the Avengers don't need 2 strong guys, and he thinks he can do better, or he can help the team better by adopting the Ant-Man moniker. And you can see he's even got the little antenna again. So yeah, so I guess Ant-Man is back. Even though I always found that weird. You call him Giant Man when he's big and Ant-Man when he's small. Like, really, is that necessary? Like, just pick a name. Pick a more general name that works either way, you know? So, but I guess he's going to be Ant-Man. We'll see more next issue if he actually does. All right. So, Strange Tales number 162. Again, Strange Tales is a double feature between Doctor Strange and Nick Fury, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. I'm only reading the Nick Fury stuff. I like Doctor Strange just fine, but I just felt like reading Nick Fury. So after this one, there's only 6 more issues before Nick Fury leaves this title. He will then roll into a Nick Fury Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. proper book, but the Marvel Unlimited app only has like issues 1, 2, and 4, or 1, 4, and 7, or 10, or something. They don't have like the full thing, so I won't be able to really read that. So yeah, this one is pretty cool because this one sort of... So 3 issues ago, we saw a new team, I guess, or rookies to S.H.I.E.L.D., like a new group of S.H.I.E.L.D. agents. But we only learned this guy's name. His name's Gaff. He's basically the Q. You know, Q in James Bond. He's basically that to Nick Fury. There was another gaggle of new S.H.I.E.L.D. agents, but we didn't really get to spend any time with them. There was one female agent that kind of caught Fury's eye, but we didn't really get to see much of her either. And we do get to see her more in this issue. So it starts, we start off with he's got an invisible car. This is very James Bond-esque. Invisible car, but it can also change colors. Here is that female agent. I actually don't know her name, and I don't know if we've found her, if we've learned her name. In New York's crosstown traffic and in answer to Fury's questions, the Countess Valentina Allegro de Fontaine explains her personal involvement with the cause of S.H.I.E.L.D. So we do get a little bit of her background. But the biggest part of this story is, other than that cool Jack Kirby-looking thing by Jim Steranko, the search for Yellow Claw. So that's been the story over the last couple issues. Remember, the last 2 issues were Fury recounting a story about some weird invaders in the Statue of Liberty that he and Captain America fought. He was telling Jimmy Woo this, and Jimmy Woo says, "Well, that sounds like Yellow Claw." So now Yellow Claw is the big bad that I guess they're gonna fight for the next few issues. And Nick Fury takes his special car and goes on the hunt for Yellow Claw. So he manages to run into some of Yellow Claw's goons. They fight. He takes a couple of them down. He actually, I guess, kills one of them or knocks them out. I don't know. He causes them to crash their car. And he actually takes off the disguise of the henchman and tries to infiltrate Yellow Claw's base. So, and this doesn't zoom in properly, but that guy right there, that's Nick Fury in a Yellow Claw henchman outfit. However, Yellow Claw is very aware of what Nick Fury's doing, and he drops him through a trapdoor and sends him to his doom to fight a squid, some kind of big white squid, and we'll see how he gets out. So this one, not a lot happens in this one. I mean, obviously there's that nice little action bit with Nick Fury and those couple of henchmen, but this story serves as the way for Nick Fury to get into Yellow Claw's base. And this is what happened. This is what ended up happening. So we'll see how he gets out of it. We'll see more to come with Yellow Claw next issue. But this one was more of a setup. It was pretty good, though. It's pretty good. So moving on to Fantastic Four, number 168. So if you remember last issue, the last couple issues were the Citadel of Science, those scientists that faked their own deaths, went and hid in the most remote place on the planet so they could better humanity. They ended up creating him, aka Adam Warlock, although we're not supposed to know. We won't know that for like another decade or so. But yeah, Adam Warlock, all that stuff, all that's done, and they are. Alicia was there. Alicia was like in the middle of all that, so she's in the hospital now. recovering. Oh gosh. So we are back on the story of Ben wanting to be normal, reverted back to his human form, so that he can be with Alicia. And he more pity party for Ben Grimm. Woe is me. I'm a big ugly monster. Alicia doesn't want me. All this stuff. This drives me crazy because there have been. I should have done my research. I have them in my notes. All of my notes here on my iPad. I should have gone through and looked because on numerous occasions, Ben has had the opportunity to revert to his normal self. And he's chosen not to for various reasons. There was even one time, I cannot remember the issue, there was even one time where he said, I don't want to be normal Ben Grimm again because Alicia likes me better this way as the Thing. And he made the conscious decision not to revert back to normal. And then since then, we've had a handful of stories like this where Ben, Reed, you promised me you'd revert me back to normal, and you got to do everything you can. And Alicia doesn't love me, even though Alicia always repeatedly says, "I love you, Ben." He never believes her, I guess. So we're back on this story. So Reed has called in the world's top chemist named I can't remember his name. It's not really important. Dr. Santini. Well, before Dr. Santini can actually make it to the Baxter Building, a mysterious figure captures him and throws him in a cell. And then this mysterious figure. Oh, and Sue also makes a new miniskirt outfit uniform for herself. That's cool, I guess. But Dr. Santini, there's a little bit here with Johnny and Crystal too. Nothing that really means much. Dr. Santini, the person who kidnapped Dr. Santini steals his identity basically. Creates a perfect wig, nose, trims his own mustache. Mustache. Okay, so we don't know who this mysterious person is. I thought it was the Thinker because there's several panels where he talks about, well, right here. Every last detail of my disguise has been checked and rechecked by the most sophisticated computers and analyzing devices known to man. So when I hear that a villain has everything planned down to the nearest detail, to the most minute detail, and run it through the most sophisticated computers, I think of the Thinker. Guys, let me check one thing real quick. Run it through the most sophisticated... Never mind. I was just double checking my volume. So I think of the Thinker, and I thought maybe this was the Thinker, but then when he's talking about trimming his mustache, I don't think the Thinker has a mustache. So maybe it's the Wizard. The Wizard has a mustache. I don't know. We'll find out. But so he steals Dr. Santini's identity. He goes to the Baxter Building, and he's posing as Dr. Santini, and he's going to help Reed with the chemical that they are going to use to revert Ben back to his normal self. However, Dr. Santini, the bad Dr. Santini, actually sabotages the experiment, and it does change Ben, but not in the way they intended. Instead of reverting back to his normal form, it does affect him psychologically instead, and basically turns him into a bad guy. Well, makes him mean. I don't want to say it turns him into a bad guy, but it makes him mean. And you can see right on the last page here, he's out to get Reed. Now at first I thought, oh man, is he just mad? But no, the chemical has messed with him a little bit. And there were several times in this issue where the fake Dr. Santini thought to himself, you fool, not for long, you unsuspecting fools, and that kind of thing. So obviously, I mean, we know that he's not the real Dr. Santini. We saw it. And soon it will be too late for any of them, so that kind of thing. So he has managed to turn Ben Grimm into sort of a mean guy, I guess, and he's going to attack the Fantastic Four. And that's how whoever this mysterious stranger is, he's going to use Ben to defeat the Fantastic Four. So I don't know how that's going to play out. I'm sure Reed will whip up something that will revert Ben back to his normal form, and I'm sure we will find out who this mysterious villain is. I thought it was a Thinker, but he trimmed his, like, he already had a mustache because he said, "I'll trim my own mustache." I don't think the Thinker has a mustache, so maybe I'm wrong. We'll find out next issue. All right. So normally that would be where we would end off the episode, but this time we've got 2 annuals. We've got Fantastic Four. The first one is Fantastic Four Annual number 5. This is the first appearance of Psycho Man, which is a very Kirby villain. He's all right, I guess, but I don't know. We'll talk about it. So, so the most notable thing this is the first appearance of Psycho Man. That's one notable thing. The other one is, there's Psycho Man right there. These 2 panels right here are Psycho Man's first appearance. So that's pretty cool. Psycho Man also has these 3 henchmen working with him. It reminded me of the Enforcers from Spider-Man. Montana, Fancy Dan, and Ox. They kind of reminded me of those guys a little bit. So he's got these henchmen working for him. They don't really figure into the story too much. So if you can see right here, Psycho Man, his big thing is he's got this like box that he carries around. I mean, it's like a boom box or something. You can see it right here, this gray thing that he's carrying around. He couldn't make it into some kind of ray gun or something like most villains in the 60s have. He's got to carry around this giant box with a big antenna on it, with these 3 largely labeled buttons: fear, doubt, and hate. And if he presses one and zaps you with it, you're gonna feel that. You're gonna feel that emotion. So, what I'm trying to that's a pretty nice Kirby shot. Psycho Man made his henchmen feel doubt, and now they're like, "Oh no, we can't do anything without you, Psycho Man. What's going to happen if you leave us?" So, meanwhile, a mysterious package, this big yellow box, was mistakenly delivered to Alicia Masters' apartment, and Psycho Man and his goons go there to get that component. Component 5 is what it's called. It's a final element. Ooh, excuse me. Ooh, sorry guys, that came out of nowhere. It's only 9:22. That kind of hit me. So he goes to steal this component because he needs it for this machine. We'll see that again in a minute. But meanwhile, where is it? Well, we'll get to it. So what I'm trying to say is, this is not really much of a Fantastic Four story. This is much, much, much more of a Black Panther Inhumans team up. Black Panther Inhumans, Human Torch Thing team up. Reed and Sue aren't really in it at all. We'll see them again here in a minute. But the Inhumans actually land on an island that Black Panther just bought, because they sense, the Black Bolt senses like the energy coming from this rocky island just off of this little rocky island just off of the larger island. Well, it turns out that's where Psycho Man's base is, and that's where he's developing this machine. So the Inhumans and Black Panther break into that. However, here's what I was trying to get to. Before we get to that, right here, this is the other notable thing. Sue Richards is pregnant. Sue is going to have a baby. So I'm assuming this is Franklin Richards. We won't get there for a while. But yeah, so it's announced that Reed and Sue are going to have a baby, and that's why Reed and Sue are not really in the rest of this book. Now, I am curious to see, like, how quickly is she going to have this baby? How quickly is she going to get back into the action? Because they could really play it out in almost real time. Or who knows, by the next issue Fantastic Four, she may have already had the baby, or they may ignore it, or she may be fighting even when she's pregnant. Like, I don't know how they're going to handle it. So that'll be interesting to see. But this is the last that we see of Reed and Sue for this issue. Well, I guess that is. But they don't figure into the larger story. But they do go and help Black Panther and the Inhumans fight Psycho Man and his goons. So what's really kind of interesting about this is Psycho Man has built this machine right here, that his little boombox, the way I understood this is his little boombox, if he zaps you with a ray, you feel hate or doubt or fear. Like, you feel it. This machine actually creates, like physically creates, if you're blasted with this thing, it physically creates a physical manifestation of the thing you're most scared of. So, for example, I guess Black Bolt is most scared of this big alien thing, so they have to fight that. Karnak is most scared of losing the use of his hands. So when he goes to break down the wall to the central area of Psycho Man's HQ, it's like the wall grows with him and like his hand gets stuck almost like honey. And he freaks out right here. Like, he really freaks out about this. He really loves his hand. Medusa, it's the one thing I've ever feared. My hand. It is the source of all my power. Without it, I'm helpless. It must be freed. I cannot lose my hand. So he's really wigged out about losing his hand. Or losing the use of his hand. So that's what he's seeing. But it's the actual physical manifestation of that, right? Black Panther, this is why I love Black Panther. While everybody else is fighting and like they're up front fighting all this stuff, Black Panther's sort of sneaking around the air ducts, although Psycho Man sees him, blasts him with the fear ray as well. And I guess Black Panther is scared or most fearful of whatever this thing is. They didn't explain it too well. But Gorgon actually shows up. He wasn't with them in the beginning. Gorgon of the Inhumans actually shows up, and his foot is actually able to, for some reason, the shockwaves from his stomp, that's his big thing, is actually able to sort of undo the effects, like undo these creations. So he goes around the base stomping everything out of existence, and they're able to defeat Psycho Man pretty easily. So, or does he get away? No, they defeat him. So we do get Psycho Man's origin as well. Apparently, and I think I knew this, but I forgot about it. Psycho Man actually comes from a race of beings that like live in like in subatomica is what they call it. So think about if you want to equate it to like the Marvel movies, in the Ant-Man movies or Endgame, where they talk about the quantum realm and they shrink down so small they actually enter another reality. Well, Psycho Man actually comes from a race of beings from a place like that. It's so small. So the Psycho Man that we see here is actually just a sort of like a mechanical body that this itty bitty teeny tiny creature is controlling remotely. And Black Panther is able to short circuit the body or something, and they defeat Psycho Man. It's a little bit, it wraps up pretty quick. It's a little bit weird, but this was an okay tale. It was a one and done. It was cool to see a little bit less of the Fantastic Four and instead see a team up between Black Panther and the Inhumans. It's kind of nice seeing the supporting cast for now. I mean, obviously they'll become bigger players later, but for now, it's the Fantastic Four supporting cast. It's kind of nice to see them sort of get the spotlight and team up against a new weird villain. So that was pretty fun. And then the last one we'll talk about, we started with Amazing Spider-Man. We're going to end with Amazing Spider-Man. Amazing Spider-Man Annual number 4. The gist of this issue is that Spider-Man and Human Torch have been called to Hollywood because Hollywood movie studios are interested in making, supposedly, allegedly, a Hollywood movie studio is interested in making a Spider-Man Human Torch movie. Because at the beginning here, Spider-Man thinks that the Torch is causing havoc in New York City. It turns out that the Human Torch is actually shooting a movie. And Spider-Man kind of messes it up. Well, the reason I go to lengths to point that out is that this guy, who we don't know, whose identity we don't know at this point, he sees that Human Torch was shooting a movie, and he gets this idea. So, stop me if you've heard this story before, because it's happened literally exactly like this once before. A bad guy poses as some type of movie executive or starts a fake movie studio, reaches out to Spider-Man, or puts an ad in the paper, on the radio or something, gets word to Spider-Man that he wants to make a Spider-Man movie for the purposes of luring Spider-Man out to Hollywood to then destroy him. That's literally the first appearance of the Green Goblin in Amazing Spider-Man 14. Same exact plot, right? Only this time the Human Torch is involved. So they think, Spidey and the Human Torch think they're there to make a movie about themselves. They film their scene, they're done, but then the Human Torch, it looks like he attacks Spidey, and Spidey doesn't really know why. Spider-Man goes to Johnny's trailer and rips the wall off because he's really mad, I guess, and they start fighting. And here it is where we learn who we are dealing with. It's actually a team-up between Mysterio and the Wizard. I actually like the Wizard pretty well. I never really liked Mysterio in the comics. I will say that Spider-Man Far From Home, the movie, kind of helped turn me around on Mysterio. I've always thought Mysterio was kind of lame. And I never knew why Mysterio was such a threat. But that movie helped me understand why, so it was pretty cool. So I'm a little bit, I'm a little bit more of a fan of Mysterio now. But Mysterio and the Wizard, are posing, or they're behind the scenes, and they lured Spider-Man, Human Torch out there to destroy them. So Spider-Man and Johnny Storm managed to stop. Half of this issue is just them fighting with each other, but they managed to stop fighting long enough to find out that they have been duped. They managed to find out that it is the Wizard and Mysterio that has duped them. And then they give chase. I guess Mysterio and the Wizard have a plan for this because Spidey and the Human Torch chase them. They run into a big mechanical gorilla, which they have to fight. They then follow... They track Mysterio and the Wizard down to their sort of hidden HQ, hidden base in a cave, and they say it's booby trapped, and they have to figure out a way to get out of the traps. But once they do, it's a pretty simple matter of the two of them taking down Mysterio and the Wizard. So, it's not a lot of substance there. It's more style than substance, really. It's cool. Anytime we get a Spider-Man and Human Torch team up, or battle, I guess, as they were wont to do in the early days, that's fun too. But that was it. We've seen this story before. Only this time, Human Torch was there too. They didn't really have to do anything in order to stop Mysterio and the Wizard. They actually turned their own booby traps against them, and that's what took them down. And that was it. And they sort of parted on decent terms, and that's it. So that was pretty fun. Nothing to write home about, but it wasn't bad. So guys, that's it. That's 8 issues. That's in 54 minutes. That's the fastest I've ever done one of these, and I hope it wasn't too fast. But I just wanted to give you a general overview of what happened in each of these titles. Silver Age stories are decent, but it's not till the Bronze Age that they get really, really good. So, but guys, I appreciate you hanging out with me tonight, talking about these comic books from November 1967. It's so much fun reading in this way because we get to identify trends. We get to see new creators come onto the books. We get to see new characters come into the books. We get to sort of pick up on, like, the thing with Ben Grimm. Well, we've seen him reject being normal several times. So we get to see stuff like that, reading them week after week like this. So, like I said, if you want to keep up with me as I read these things every day, I read one of these a day. You can follow me at _, don't forget the _ Comics Daily on Twitter, or _ don't forget that, Comics Daily IG on Instagram. I do Spider-Man's on Sunday, Tales of Suspense on Monday, Daredevil on Tuesday, Avengers on Wednesday, Strange Tales on Thursday, Fantastic Four on Friday, and then Saturday is kind of like a wild card day. Sometimes I miss Saturday. Or if we have annuals, I'll read those on Saturday. Or sometimes I'll read like a more modern thing, like I read Something is Killing the Children, issue number 1, one Saturday. I read Crossover number 1, one Saturday. I read The Scumbag number 1 on one Saturday. So Saturdays are like the wild cards where I can read, whatever I want to. Now I have I actually have a spreadsheet, a Google spreadsheet. There is a pinned tweet in this Twitter account that you can go to and actually have my schedule of comics, what I'm reading when. I've got it mapped out for the next 2 years. So I can tell you that by the time we hit December of 2022, we will be, I think, in 1976. Will be the end of 1970s. When we get to the end of 2022, we'll be at the end of 1976 in the comics. Then we'll keep going from there. So I've got it all planned out. But I am going to start, as we get into the 70s and more characters and more books, I am going to start, picking up a couple more titles because I really like to, I'm going to pick up X-Men at some point. I'm going to try out some old Hulk, and probably, I don't know, some Silver Surfer, maybe some other things. So it's going to be super fun. But yeah, follow these accounts on whichever platform you choose, and I post about them every day, one a day. Eventually it'll be probably a couple a day. But follow those and chat with me. Leave me a comment. Leave me a comment on if you're watching this video later. Leave me a comment on Instagram or send me a reply on Twitter. Let's just talk about comics. I love comic books. They've been my passion for over 30 years. They're my number one thing I enjoy more than anything else, more than any other form of entertainment. I like comic books the best. And yeah, just let's talk about comics. So guys, I appreciate you watching. Thank you so much. And until next time, I will see you guys later. Have a good one. Be safe. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.